Welcome to another episode of Sustainable Goat. I'm Steve Castingham, and I interview the greatest of all time in sustainability from the past, present, and into the future. In this episode, I talk with Eduardo Quevedo from Wuaman. Alpacas are known to be one of the cutest animals around, but as a clothing material, alpaca fiber is not only resilient, but it's incredibly soft, and it's sustainable. Wuaman is a family business that has been going for well over 30 years. So let's dive into the conversation with Eduardo. Thank you so much for just being a part of this. I'm super excited to just talk more about everything that you guys have been working on. But I'd love to start with just a little bit about you. Where do you come from, and what's your story?
My story, let's see, it's a little unusual. I was born in Peru, in the north, in Piura. It's the city of the eternal sun. It's about 80 degrees all year long. That's where I'm from, where my family's from. But for political reasons, we had to move to the U.S. as political asylees, and that happened when I was 13. So I've lived a little over half of my life here in the U.S., in San Diego to be more exact.
Wow. You can get into it if you want, but I mean, how was that experience making that move and that change?
It went pretty smoothly. I think my parents did a great job at making that transition and making it as painless as possible for us. But it was unusual. I was in a different country, different culture, different language, new friends. It was shocking. I didn't feel at home here for the longest time. I really missed my friends and everything about Peru.
Yeah, I've never been to Peru. Tell me about Peru.
Peru is amazing. We have a big coast with beautiful beaches, water, so it's slightly cold, but great waves, great for surfing. I grew up about 40 minutes away from the beach near the coast. Start going east, you run into the Andes, which are amazing, full of life. It's as if you've gone to another country. When you go from the coast of Peru to the Andes of Peru, the culture changes, the way people speak, the food they eat. It's all so different. And then from there, if you go down the hill into the Amazon, it's it's another world. People speak differently again. They eat wild things like people from the jungle eat pretty much anything that move. So it's a culture shock. You can have many culture shocks in Peru.
I think that's so cool though. Like it's such a diverse place that gives so much, I guess, appreciation for, I mean, all the different types of environment. I mean, to be mountains and ocean and jungle. I mean, that's super cool. Not, I don't think very many countries have that.
Yeah, yeah, we're definitely fortunate to have that, and that with the coast comes the fishing industry. We do a lot of the agriculture industry is huge in the Andes. The Incas really mastered how to grow vegetables and fruits at different altitudes. They like, found the perfect altitude for each fruit and vegetable.
So you came to the U.S. When you were 13. What was kind of that point for you where you were like, "Cool, I feel good here now."
That's happened recently, actually. Yeah, I always felt like a visitor, but recently, I think through our business now, I'm learning to connect the two places, and learning all the advantages that living here has provided me, and I think that makes me feel more comfortable.
That's really awesome. And yeah, let's dive into, I mean, alpacas. I think you guys have an incredible history in terms of a business. I mean, it's multi-generational. How did all of it start?
I'm just a lucky guy, really. It all started because I was living here. I was at a job that I didn't enjoy, and I wanted to do something more fulfilling with my life. So I decided to take some time off and travel. I thought, what better place to travel than Peru? A place that saw me during my first years on Earth, and I didn't really know it. I had heard a lot of stories about the Andes and the jungle, but I hadn't been there. So I took a few months, went to Peru, traveled around, and was lucky enough to meet my current wife, Sandra. We decided we had a long distance relationship for a while, and and her family is the one who started with making products out of alpaca. They started in the late 90s, first with those heirloom knitting machines that are hand operated knitting machines, and first started working with acrylic because that's all that they could afford, acrylic yarn. So then, they grew into industrial machines, having a bigger team, were able to afford alpaca fiber, so they made better quality products. And little by little, so as I said, this started in the late 90s, and little by little they grew to the point where when I met them, they were already a pretty big company for Peru standard. And they had a great team already formed with an embroidery team, a crochet team, a lot of people from their community. And my wife and I decided to take their business and start create a different brand that could be marketable to the US consumers, and bring the business here to the US. So that's how I get involved.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, especially when you have a family business that's working on just really cool stuff. I think a lot of the time in like the textile industry, clothing, accessories, anything like that, the artisanship has been lost. You talked about them starting with heirloom machines, and really it's handmade. And I'd love to hear like more about just how that process is done, because I think a lot of expectations, when you go to the store to buy, anything you need, you don't know if a human's making it, if a machine's making it, if it's actually good quality.
The Andes of Peru, Huancayo, the city where they're from, especially, is very rich in textile traditions. Embroidery is part of their life. From what they wear casually, which looks like small flowers and some rhinestones, to more of a formal embroidery, and it's more elaborate. That's all ingrained in the culture. So part of our mission is to keep those textile traditions alive, by incorporating embroidery into our collections, loom weaving, which is also another form of hand operated machine, and crochet.
And so what's the difference between, having something handmade versus machine made? Like when it comes to quality and production, what's kind of that difference?
Both machine made products and handmade products can be well made and made to last. But when we talk about handmade products, there's a higher attention to detail. There's a higher level of expertise that is required to be able to use these machines. And also, we save a lot of energy. We also are allowed to use, or can use, material that is more raw. For example, we can use hand spun yarn when we make handmade products, but when we use a machine, it has to be a machine made yarn.
So why alpacas? What's the story behind the alpacas?
Well, the alpacas are one of Peru's biggest resource. About 80% of the world's alpacas live in Peru. So yeah, it's a huge resource that we have available to us, and it's not very well known throughout the world, but it's slowly gaining some ground, and its reputation for its quality and its benefits are starting to be more well known here in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever pet an alpaca or seen one, like they're very fluffy and soft, and so as a textile material, it's great. And I guess when you have an industry that kind of relies on fibers, I think it speaks to the sustainability of it. I mean, the alpacas need to be shaved.
They do. The alpacas have been domesticated for thousands of years, so they, like you said, they do need to be sheared once a year. And the shearing process is actually it's actually beautiful to watch. Alpacas roam freely around the Andes, and when it's time for them to be sheared, the whole community gets together, and it's an event. It's usually done in the warm season, which or there would be about April in the Andes. So they're all gathered together. The community as a whole shears them, and they start to separate the fiber into different qualities depending on its on how thick it is or the age of the animal.
That's so cool that it's a community experience to actually do this. Like that, I just think about it as like one big party with a community and alpacas, and it being just super fun.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's a celebration. Yeah, it lasts 2 to 3 days.
Wow. I mean, yeah, how big is this event? I mean, is it in each community or is it like a massive thing?
It happens in each community separately. It's not at any particular time. It's just whenever the community sees fit. But it's just as long as it's during spring, when alpacas can be without their fur and be okay.
Wow. Yeah, because I think that's an important thing to talk about is, when you're using, fur or just a coat of an animal, you want them to be good. And I think a lot of the time people think that when you use, animal products, if you will, that it's not necessarily sustainable. It's not great for the animal, but I mean, the alpacas probably love it because if it gets too shaggy, it's not great.
Yeah, yeah, they can overheat if they're not sheared timely, and it can be not hygienic for the alpacas. So yeah, it's a team effort now. I think it's something that they're very used to as well. Alpacas can live 12 to 14 years, so they're used to having this done every year.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you guys get all the fibers, and obviously there's different colors. What does that process look like for you when you think about, we're gonna make a product out of this? What's kind of the next step from your end?
When creating products out of alpaca, our motto is be conscientious. So we everything that we do, we want to do it with a purpose. Alpacas have 23 natural colors, so we always try to not dye the material. So what can we do with the natural colors that we have available? So that's why a lot of our products we produce are of a classic design, do a lot of neutral colors, a lot of earth colors. We really just try to do the best with what we have, with the best with the raw material.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, and it also probably if you start dyeing the material or changing the material, it's going to change the integrity of it, how good it actually is naturally.
Yeah, definitely. We try to use the material as it is because that way we can get all of the benefits out of the alpaca.
That's amazing. So, what do you guys have in terms of product line? What did you guys start with as you came to the U.S.? Did you have a lot of products? Was it just a few? I mean, you guys have a lot now, which is really awesome.
When we first started, um, we wanted to make everything out of natural fibers. We wanted to only use natural fibers. That was our initial plan, but we quickly realized that it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible in the US market. Prices were too high when only using natural fibers, and we were pretty much priced out of the market. So we quickly adapted and realized that if we have to make products out of 50% alpaca and 50% acrylic, we're still reducing acrylic usage by 50%. So that was a compromise we had to make.
Yeah, dive more about that because I would imagine like the end goal is still to be 100% natural fiber, but it's kind of that transition time, like you can have the most sustainable mission as possible, but if the market doesn't accept it, you're not going to be making an impact. So what was that like kind of coming into the American market? I mean, it is different. What is that like when you're selling to a culture that's not as open to that?
It was a challenge, for retailers here in the US and in most places, I assume price point is the most important thing for them. What can we do now? How do we grow into being a more sustainable company and that only uses natural fibers? Well, our plan for that is to educate people about alpaca. and natural fibers in general. Alpaca is strong, it's durable. So if we can educate people that sweater or a coat that they get from us made out of alpaca will last them much longer, many years longer than a coat made out of acrylic yarn. Another huge point for alpaca is that it's hypoallergenic. And
Mm.
when people see something made out of alpaca, they sometimes assume that it's wool, and wool can cause allergic reactions in some people, and is really not the same material. Alpaca is softer, is silkier, it's more breathable. If we can get people to understand the benefits, we can gain a little more ground.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like it using alpaca it lasts longer. I guess you're not going to have to replace it as often as you would another product. And I think I definitely like this conversation having to do with natural fibers because when you come to an American market, I mean, it's almost, I mean, we talked about this a little bit, it's almost the cheaper price will almost win out necessarily over the more expensive one. But at the same time, it's more about the value of what you're buying. And when people see value, they're willing to pay a higher price. So in terms of education, when you're educating the population on alpaca, I mean, how has that been going? Because to me, the first time I experienced an alpaca product, all I had to do was feel it, and it was just oh, okay, I get it now. It's very easy. Is that kind of the biggest hurdle? Is it the education, or is it?
The biggest hurdle so far has been education. What we're doing is we're using social media to educate people a little at a time. Give them pointers here and there of the benefits of alpaca fiber, or how sustainable it is, not just the fiber, but also the animal. Aside from social media, we're doing shows where we take the opportunity not just to sell our products, but also, but more importantly, to talk to the consumer, to learn what the consumer wants, and to also learn in which ways we can reach them. What which of these qualities is more appealing to them. That's all a process.
Yeah, definitely. So, how long have you guys been operating in the U.S. and how's that growth been for you guys?
Not very long. We started halfway through 2019. We had a successful 2019 holiday season, and then 2020 happened. We all know
Hmm.
what happened in 2020. So that was a big challenge for us, not just here in the U.S., but more so in Peru. We immediately shifted our attention to how can we keep our people employed? How can we keep paying all the artisans that we've trained, that have been working for us all these years? And we felt a huge responsibility to them. So, like, what we did in Peru is we separated the working area into smaller sections. We installed knitting machines and in people's homes so they could work from home. We provided transportation to and from work so that they wouldn't have to be in public transportation with other people. That was the main hurdle in 2020, but we got through it. We were able to produce. We were able to somewhat of a stock here in the U.S. to keep keep selling and continue with our mission. Luckily, things got a little better towards the end of 2020. We were able to go back to doing retail in fairs, and really 2020 served as a huge learning experience that we can take with us.
Yeah, hats off to you guys for being able to provide that for everybody that's a part of the company. Because that's huge. It really shows the value that you guys have of every single part of the process, from the production to the alpacas to the customer. Because at the end of the day, too, the customers continue to want the product, and you want to be able to provide it for them.
Those 3 points are big for us, and they're really the three main points for sustainability. The sustainability involves has a social aspect, an economic aspect, and environmental. So we working with our community and training people in our community is a big part of what we do.
And so, what are some of the really popular products that you guys do produce? Because, I mean, you have a lot of different stuff from cardigans to scarves, hats, hand warmers. What's kind of some of the popular stuff that you guys have that people are going crazy about?
Two different things. Our embroidery collection is really big, and people are excited about it and can really appreciate the art and the expertise that it takes to embroider something in that way. And then the second collection that we've developed for the U.S. market is an essentials collection, and some of those products are really selling, like our classic braided headbands in solid colors, the hand warmers in the same design, beanies, the reversible beanies. Those ones have been big here in the U.S., especially in our main markets, which are Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and California.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much any place where you might need to be slightly warmer, but also breathable.
Yeah, and we've noticed that these areas of the US are also very environmentally conscious and are willing to pay slightly higher prices for a sustainable product.
Yeah, and you guys talk a lot about fair trade as well in at least on your site and through your business model. Walk me through a little bit about that component as well, because you have the sustainability and then you also have the fair trade, which I think kind of plays into both, but I know that's definitely an important pillar for you guys.
Fair trade goes hand in hand with sustainability, part of our economic impact in our community. Our purpose as a company is to generate sustainable development in Indian communities through fair trade. So, becoming a fair trade certified manufacturer was a huge achievement for us. Yeah, that happened in 2019, shortly after we started doing business here in the US. And what that means for us is not just paying fair wages, but going beyond that. We pay higher than than whatever the living wage is in that community. We provide zero interest loans when necessary. People in these communities are a lot of times are living in extreme poverty. So if any emergency happens, they need help, and we pride in being able to help them.
That's incredible. That's really amazing that you guys are able to do that, because that, I mean, that's what lifts whole communities up, and through just making a product that people can wear and people can share with others and gift to others. I mean, you're able to improve a community, and that's what business is all about, right? It's about improving communities.
Yes, we truly believe that is the best way in which we can help through fair trade, providing people a job, a steady job, and training them in different skills.
So what's your favorite part of what you're doing? Is it the creation of the product? Is it working with the customers? Is it getting it in front of more people? Is it the whole thing? What's your favorite part of the process?
For me, the most rewarding and my favorite part of the process is um, being able to make a positive impact in my native country of Peru. That is extremely fulfilling for me. The fact that we can employ more people and more as we grow. The fact that we are taking the alpaca fiber, which is mostly known as a Peruvian thing, and bringing it to the U.S. market, and hopefully other parts of the world. That's very rewarding for me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how does that work in terms of, it's not your background and kind of this learning curve of getting into textiles, and it's a very complicated industry when you get deep and into it. What's that learning process been like for you?
It's been a long process for me. There's a lot to learn about knitting techniques, the different types of stitching processes that a garment can go through after being knit, to give it a different finish. So there's a lot involved in the manufacturing of these products. So that's been a it's been a long learning experience. And what I've been able to help mostly through this time is in the customer, the final product and the customer.
Well, and I think that's the biggest part of growing a business is getting that feedback, talking to the consumer and the customer and to figure out, what they like, what they don't like, what's their favorite color. And, I think that's what makes a good business. It's feedback from other people. And so you're able to see it from kind of a full scale. You're able to see from the production process all the way to the customer. Did you ever think that you'd be doing this?
No, no, I never thought I would be doing something like this, but I'm really glad I stumbled upon it.
And what's your hope for the future for, the growth of the company and where you want to take it?
Our goal as a company, obviously, we want to grow. We concentrate in wholesale sales, so we want to be in as many stores as possible throughout the U.S. And that way we can bring more development to our community. As a long-term goal that I tend to dream about is being able to do more for our community. So how can we I always think about how can we do that in the future. So right now we provide training workshops where mainly mothers from our community can learn a trade, like embroidery, loom weaving, crocheting. In the future, maybe we can have a building where we can provide these classes more times a year, where we can provide other classes like that are necessary in those areas. Classes about family planning and hygiene and proper care of your children. I think we can include all kinds of workshops in the future.
Well, and I think that's incredible that you want to do that. I mean, and I wholeheartedly believe you guys will achieve that for sure, especially through the products that you have. And I think that's so important for the consumer to think about is like when you go to the store and you go to purchase something, what is that purchase doing? Is it just, providing you something that you just want to have? And, where's your purchasing dollar actually going? And, I think there's something to be said for, a purchase going to something really positive and really helping a community.
Yes, that's what we want. We want to change that mentality in the U.S. consumer and to being conscientious in the way they spend.
And do you remember the first product that you purchased that could be considered sustainable? Do you remember what that product may have been? Whether it's, it could be a water bottle, could be, you bought something out of recycled materials. You bought something that would last for a very long time. Do you remember kind of that first product that you consciously went, you know what, I'm going to be really conscientious about this purchase?
Yes, it's probably the same as for many other people. It was a canteen, a metal canteen. It's probably the first thing I remember consciously buying to serve a purpose. So I like everyone else, I would buy plastic water bottles, and one day thought, okay, enough is enough. I can make this change pretty easily, and um, I actually still have that same canteen to this day.
That's awesome. I mean, hey, that's what it's about. It's about making it last as long as possible and the life cycle of something. Because if you're getting rid of something only a few years later or even a few months later, it's not really helping the issue, because there's power and energy that goes into the production of the product, the transportation of the product, and then the selling of the product. I mean, there's a whole chain. If you can make it last a really long time, it becomes a much more sustainable purchase.
Yes, definitely. And and then when one chooses to embark in that journey of sustainability, things just come up all the time in your day-to-day life. You start thinking about a more sustainable way of washing your dishes, or better timing when you do your laundry. Or there are so many little things that we can tweak in our day-to-day life to have a more sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah, what would you suggest for someone who's just kind of starting in that journey? What would you kind of suggest is a good first step for people?
Whatever's easiest, for you. Like if sometimes we set our goals too high. I would say start with a water canteen. It might seem easy, but to some people it's not. Yeah, just start with something that's easy, with something that you know that you can do consistently. I would just tell people to be mindful. If you are doing something one way, take a moment to think about it and see if you can do it differently, and it'll be more efficient or more sustainable.
I love that. I really love that. If you're going out in nature and you're going to go anywhere in the world to, kind of enjoy nature, where are you going? Is it Peru?
It'd be Peru, because it's familiar to me, and there are some amazing places that when I think of Peru, I think of teleporting there. Like it's called the Valle Sagrado, the Sacred Valley, in the Cusco region. It's right between mountains and jungle. So it's either it's considered a high jungle, or there are so many vegetables that only grow there. That's one of my favorite places on earth. And then the other one would be the Amazon. I just feel a connection to the jungle, to the how wild and unpredictable it is. I think that there's a lot we can learn from that.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think can be learned from just that kind of that area? I mean, that ecosystem is so special. There's so much that lives there that, the trees provide so much for the animals, and then the animals provide so much for the ecosystem. Like, what's so special about that area?
It's full of resources. It's so rich. When we travel to cities that are in the Amazon, we can quickly see that people are not educated on how to preserve their environment. You see a lot of pollution caused by the same people that live there.
Honestly, visiting any area, even if you're not close to the Amazon or anything like that, go to a place where you're in a really natural environment and just unplug a little bit and see what that's like. Because I think you get a lot of appreciation for the world around you when you're completely unplugged in some of those areas, because it's so easy nowadays to be just connected all the time. And it's not to say to disconnect completely, but take a break and just appreciate what the world has to offer.
Yeah, that's something we all need to do more of.
Definitely. So how can more people learn about Wuaman? How can people get involved, purchase your stuff, find you on social media? What's the way to get involved?
You can find us at many different stores throughout the U.S. You can find us online at wuaman.com. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook account under the same name, wuaman.official. You'll see us being part of events and fairs around Denver and other Colorado cities. A small shop in Castle Rock, Colorado, where you can also find some of our products. There are many ways you can find us and be a part of a great cause.
That's awesome. Well, Eduardo, thank you so much for just being a part of this show. I'm so grateful we're able to talk about all this stuff, and to be able to dive into alpacas in a more sustainable economy in such a positive way, and the fact that every single thing that Wuaman makes is beautiful. The material's amazing. It lasts a really long time, and as you said, and it's an incredible cause. So why not?
Yes, and it's a product that is most likely made by someone. Different details or different designs that are made by someone. So it makes a great gift to be able to give an embroidered scarf to your mom or your grandma and tell her about the process.
That's amazing. Well, Eduardo, thank you so much, and I'm so excited that you were able to come on the show and share everything about Wuaman and just your story, especially. I mean, you have such an incredible story of coming to the U.S. and then still having roots in Peru, and really elevating that and sharing it with other people. I think that's incredibly valuable, and never stop doing that.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Sustainable Goat. If you're looking to refresh your wardrobe and purchase more thoughtfully, consider supporting the Wuaman family business and the alpacas in Peru. There will be links to their site and social media in their bio to check them out. They are incredibly soft and it is amazing. If you've been enjoying these episodes, share your favorite one with a friend or post it on social media. Your support goes a long way, and the more that the community grows, the more impact that we can have on the world. So thanks again for listening to this episode of Sustainable Goat.